evening, all my South Orange Maplewood listeners, and all those other listeners in the towns of Millburn, Livingston, Irvington, West Orange, East Orange, Orange, and Newark. Welcome to In the Village with Anselm on the South Orange Maplewood Online Radio Experience, and live on the World Wide Web at somore.org, and the only radio show covering all your news, opinions, politics, talk, and sports happening in the South Orange Maplewood communities. You can listen to us every Monday through Friday from 8 to 9:30 p.m. That's 8 to 9:30 p.m. And reach us at 973-327-3626. That's 973-327-3626 to participate in the discussion. We have a very interesting program lined up for you this evening, and I look forward to your participation in the discussion. Now, it's been a very, very eventful week here in the Village at Anselm on the South Orange Maplewood Online Radio Experience. And during this week, in our communities of South Orange and Maplewood, there appears to be a name that has been very active in the South Orange Maplewood communities during the past week. And just a few days ago, there was an article in the Washington Post written by Jay Matthews. Why can his daughter take AP Calculus? And that article was talking about Walter Field's 15-year-old daughter, who is a sophomore at Columbia High School in Maplewood. And she scored advanced proficient on state math tests in middle school and received an A in algebra in the 8th grades, and there were some questions about why she can't take AP Calculus. Now, just today, in NewJersey.com Star Ledger, we had an opinion piece written by Walter Fields titled, 6 Decades After Brown versus Board of Education, New Jersey Schools Are Still Segregated. And if you go to somore.org, and you haven't read this piece, go to somore.org, and right there on the homepage, you will see the article. Also, if you are our friends on Facebook, I also posted an article on Facebook. And I am just wondering, when the community as a whole going to come together and try to stem the tide of different type of publicity that we can truly avoid. We can truly avoid some of these publicity by being proactive in these communities of South Orange and Maplewood. And sometimes when we allow things to go by, these are the type of things that happen. And it's sad that we allow these type of things to happen in the community, where you then have individuals and people taking drastic measures because many things are being ignored. Now, the article starts, as we approach the 60th anniversary next month of the landmark Brown versus Board of Education desegregation ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court, the principle of equity in public education is on life support. Our country has moved from a unanimous high court ruling that segregation is unconstitutional to a new segregation that's pervasive in schools throughout New Jersey. Several reports have detailed the segregated nature of our state's public school, despite New Jersey's constitutional clause that preceded Brown, making segregation in public schools illegal. Now, before we continue, there was a report on NPR regarding segregated schools in New Jersey. I want us to take a listen to that report regarding segregated schools in New Jersey. Let's take a listen.
Ever since the year 2000, 15-year-olds from around the world have taken a test every 3 years to gauge their reading, math, and science skills. It's called PISA, short for Program.
Every year in the United States of America, the wealthiest nation in the world, 1.2 million high school students fail to graduate. The vast majority of these students come from low-income households, and over half are minorities. Over the course of a lifetime, a high school dropout makes about $260,000 less than a high school graduate, not to mention a college graduate. The broken educational system that was once touted as the door to social mobility in the United States is instead enforcing a policy of modern-day de facto segregation that keeps the poor poor, the rich rich, and relegates minority groups to second-class citizens. As the cycle of poverty continues, Americans become more and more detached. The schools see poverty as the problem, and the poor see the schools as the problem, but neither is the culprit. The true culprit is the educational system itself, which gives the least funding to the schools who need it and tracks so-called gifted and talented students on a higher level than their peers. The famous Supreme Court case of Brown v. Board of Education happened in the 1950s, but America has yet to let go of its past ways. It has merely disguised them. The irreversible harm that Chief Justice Earl Warren spoke of in his written opinion is putting a significant percentage of our nation's students at a disadvantage, and through this robbing the taxpayers and the national economy of millions or even billions of dollars in potential revenue. However, the facade is growing more transparent by the second, and it is becoming apparent that it is time to recognize the problem. Segregation is not a civil rights movement problem any longer. It is our problem.
I'm from Waukegan, and that is a northern suburb of Chicago. The city of Waukegan is generally known for having a bad school system and kind of a bad reputation of the people that live there, because it's generally like a working class, it's like poor area. Like every year they're always dropping extracurricular activities. I mean, the school is just not, it has no funds. I mean, there's hardly any programs anymore, and people see no support, so they just don't care about programs, and they just disappear. Our school is like 60% Hispanic, and like 30% black, and like maybe like 10% is like all other races, white, Asian, all other races in the cities. And I've seen other schools that are like maybe 30 miles away from us, and they're doing just great. Like their schools compared to us are like, I mean, their schools are
and what
fantastic.
What do you think is like the racial composition of those? Is it similar or is it different?
No, it's way different. It's like, I think all whites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, as the audio continues, there are 2,000 schools that account for half of the nation dropout. Dropout factories disproportionately affect minorities. Twice the amount of dropout from these schools are African American and Latinos. There are two types of segregation, according to the report. You have segregation between schools and segregation within schools. Segregation within schools is produced with the use of tracking, through which students are placed in different class difficulties because of their performance on a standardized test. And this is part of what we know we have in South Orange and Maplewood. We do have tracking, we do have putting kids in different levels in the school system.
I mean, it's just not fair for other people. Other people should have the same resources and the same opportunity. Whether or not they succeed, it's their choice now. You know, but like, I mean, I think we need more support though. We need more people to help us out, because I certainly can't change all of that.
So there you have it. Let's get back to the article. And I think sometimes in our communities, we want to be able to be proactive regarding our communities. And when we allow things to happen and it goes unabated, unchecked, and it gets way out of hand, these are the type of things that happens in the communities. Now, the article continues to say that much of the focus has been on our state's urban school, and understandably so. The history of inequitable school funding and the pervasiveness of poverty in our cities have been a toxic mix, denying generations of mostly black and now increasingly Latinos children of the thorough and efficient education mandated by our state constitution. What has received less attention is the segregated nature of suburban school districts, often integrated in outward appearance but racially stratified in the school building on the basis of class assignment. And you just hear the individual talking about class assignment. And we just talked about the two types of segregation that was reported in that audio. Segregations between schools and segregation within schools. And the article is addressing that. Today, as a parent and a resident of Maplewood, I'm confronting diversity methodology in my community and discovering the modern-day version of Jim Crow in the corridors of our school building. Our tongue boasts of its diversity and claim to have achieved a relative post-racial nirvana that does not hold up under close inspection. And I have been talking about how we tout our diversity in these communities of South Orange and Maplewood. And I believe in the diversity in South Orange and Maplewood. But there are questions, people questioning the true diversity in these communities of South Orange and Maplewood.